Did you know companion planting is just as important for your fruit and nut trees? Last summer, I planted guilds around all of my fruiting trees. I carefully selected plants that would help to repel unwanted insects, attract beneficial pollinators, suppress weeds, fix nitrogen from the air, pull nutrients from deep within the soil, and act as natural mulchers. These 7 members are what creates a guild. This Honeycrisp apple tree is supported by a 4x4-foot guild around the base of the tree. Happy Tuesday morning. We're going to start planting our guilds today. So first things first, get out a notepad if you have apple trees. But that being said, what works for me might not work for you for several reasons. 1, we have to take into consideration your growing zone. 2, we got to take into consideration your average amount of rainfall. So with the whole idea of permaculture, you don't want to spend a lot of time babying things. You don't want to sit there and have to water constantly. I will initially to help things get established, but the idea is that this is like a self-managing guild. So take into consideration how much rainfall you get, because if it's more drought tolerant, you're obviously going to have an easier time than with something that a plant that really just needs more care. And then the other thing you have to take into consideration is foot traffic, whether or not these things are going to be in areas where there's a lot of human traffic, animal traffic, and then whether or not those animals may chomp on that vegetation, because if they do, it could be toxic and you don't want to have that. So I can't really tell you what to plant, but I can share what I'm planting for my situation, and it's going to change from tree to tree. So for today's apple trees, I'm starting with 2. We're right next to my barn, which is right next to the coop. The sheep are over here, the ducks, the geese, the kids. So I'm going to plant things here that aren't huge, that aren't going to be invasive. I'm also going to plant things that tend to not need a lot of water, but if I needed to come by with a hose or a water can, it's accessible. So those are some things to keep in mind when doing your guilds. So with all that said, what I'm planting next to these 2 apple trees that I will not be planting and interchanging things out with my other trees for all the reasons I just mentioned with regard to water are okay, so that's everything that's going in here. I do have some marigolds. They are an annual. They'll obviously need to be replanted every year, but I have some left over from the vegetable garden, so it can't hurt to throw them here. Technically, calendula is a annual, but it readily self-seeds, and so it does come back. But the whole idea of permaculture is permanent agriculture. You want things that are going to come back every single year. It's less packaging, less work. In addition, their root systems go a lot deeper. They can get at a lot more nutrients than your annual root systems can, because they don't have the same amount of time to develop. Watch my video on carbon. It talks about how perennials are really advantageous for the environment. Perennials are a good thing. So I'm going to get these all in the ground. We're going to duplicate this for the other tree that I started, and then I will keep you posted as soon as I get more boxes so that I can break them down and start putting them around my other trees, because even other apples, based on their location, have different plants. And then lastly, if you're thinking about working on a guild or any sort of permaculture system around a fruit tree, take note again that it doesn't have to be a square, and it doesn't have to be small plants. So I have small plants because it's appropriate for this landscape situation, but you'll see upcoming in other areas, I mean, we're going to be incorporating berry bushes, shrubs, things that are larger, because we have the space to do so, and I don't really want my ducks and geese eating my blueberries no matter where they're grown. So do stay tuned. I will be sure to include you in on all of the different plantings we're going to do, but just know it doesn't have to be small flowering herbs, small flowers, that sort of thing. They absolutely can be larger shrubs and crops. So just make sure to do your research before you do any planting. All right, I'm going to get these in the ground. I'll show an after pic of these little teeny tiny babies in here. It's going to be, I got cut off. It's going to be super underwhelming in the beginning. The idea is patience, establishment, getting these to grow, and hopefully next year they'll actually fill in to sort of be this lush landscape. Right now they're just going to look like I put a bunch of plants in the ground. So I'm impatient to get them up to size, but let me show you how it looks here in a minute. Okay, here it is. First one done. It's been mulched for now. I mean, the suppressors, the lemon balm, the mint will choke out everything eventually and act as a living mulch, but we're not there yet. So I'm going to help it out. Gave it a good drink, and we're off to the races. So if you kind of picture how this is going to look when it's filled in, lemon balm here gets pretty tall. Across from that diagonal comfrey is going to get big here. Chicory does nicely there. And then we'll have some tansy. So it's really going to become this full mini landscape here with some other flowers coming out, all naturally mulched with the mint. And lemon balm does a bit of that too. So it's going to be good. One bed down, 14 different guilds to go.